Okay, so northeast for 8 days.
How many ADAs?
Is 6.3.
That might be a bit on the heavy side. I would put it closer to 3 or 4.
3 or 4 days. So
3 or 4 ADAs.
Oh, okay. That's going to be 3 or 4 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it'd be 2
Because
days a week.
that pasture's 1,400 acres.
1,400, yeah.
Yeah. So you're gonna get about 1 ADA per day.
Okay.
For the whole herd. May camp it'll be a little bit less because that's about 1,600 acres. So.
Okay.
When most people use the term intensive grazing, we think about a high density of cattle grazing in a rotational pattern, but really intensive grazing is more about intensive management.
Yeah, that looks like it.
Right there. Yeah. This is sedge.
That's a little sedge, yeah.
What we're doing out here is we're managing grass. We're managing the soil to grow grass to feed cows. So you can say we manage cows, but really we're managing soil.
Whenever you have something standing up that's dry, it's just oxidizing. So when you have a large herd of cattle, they come through and they lay down what they don't eat. And then after time, this becomes soil. But this won't because it's sitting up in the air and it's oxidizing. So it needs to be on the ground. So that's a...
No, it's on the ground.
Yeah, there you go. You could be a cow. The function of grass is not only to feed cattle, but it's also to feed the ground. But it can't get onto the ground unless cattle, bison, wildebeest, or anything that herds in large herds comes through and just knocks it down. So the planning process is the time when we plan how we're going to manipulate the movement of the cattle to achieve our conservation values.
There's a process that you go through where you can physically go out into a pasture and pace off an area and cut all of the forage down to a level that you want to leave it at. And you take all of those clippings and you weigh it. So that gives you a mass of how much food would be within that square yard, and then you can extrapolate that across your whole pasture. So once you have that figured out, you have an estimation of how many pounds of feed are in a pasture. And you can say, I have this many cows, they need this much feed. To harvest this much feed, we'd stay in this pasture for this many days. And you go through that process for each pasture on the ranch. And you just chart that out. Today we're going out to look at some pastures and evaluate forage. During the springtime, the Chico in southern Colorado and kind of the West in general have an issue with Russian thistle growing, which is a plant that forms the tumbleweed. What we're trying to do is use the cattle as a management tool to minimize our tumbleweed load in the following year. When you graze it, it halts its inputs into its roots and has to put back its leaves. And then over time, moderate to severe grazing eliminates how many plants will mature to a seed and gradually reduce population of weeds. It might take 100 years, but you might be able to get rid of tumbleweeds.
The most important tool that we use in management of the ecosystem is being able to control the time that cattle graze a particular pasture so that they do not come back to a plant until it's completely rested. The land, the wildlife, the habitat, they're all critical factors that we're looking at that dictate how fast we move, how many cattle, how many pastures, all those kinds of things that go into the planning process.